Obviously, there's some conversations running deep in people's minds when we're talking about grief and suicide, and how to prevent these and take the necessary steps to help individuals we think are going through some things personally or have already gone through something with their family members or loved ones. And we just want to get some resources out to you guys by way of talking to individuals that deal with this particular subject matter every single day. And in this instance, she is a 20-plus year veteran in the Army and has experienced some things herself personally to devote her life to her organization, One Common Bond. Good afternoon, Miss Kimberly Franco. How are you today?
I am doing awesome.
Well, I appreciate your patience getting on there. I know it was a little bit of time consuming there, but typically that doesn't do all those steps to get in with us. But I do appreciate your patience and your tenacity to get on board with us.
One thing I learned in the military is being resilient and flexible.
Well, I can appreciate that. I'm Chris, and then my co-host here is Scott.
Hey, Miss Kimberly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for coming on the show.
No worries. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate it. So you're the founder of One Common Bond. That's correct?
That is correct, yes.
And doing some research here, we really appreciate veterans first and foremost transitioning out and doing something productive, and we're always looking for the success stories of our veterans kind of giving back to not only their local communities but also their brothers and sisters in arms, so to speak, and even those that weren't in the military. You're still helping that, so we definitely are grateful for people like yourself.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
So what we try to do here on Head to Head, it is, basically we send our information out and stream to quite a lot of people now. We're kind of getting just started here, but we've had a lot of positive feedback. And, I know there's a dire need and kind of an underlying conversation in this country, not only with our veterans, but also just people in general, that I believe that your organization really, really looks into and tries to assist with.
Yes. My organization started as an organization to specifically help with people that have had a loss due to suicide. But in the process of doing that, I realized that all grief is the same. They go through the same 7 steps of grief. It feels the same as you're going on that journey. So we basically opened it up to say, hey, we're here to support anybody that has any type of grief, because it is a journey that you shouldn't take by yourself. And we want to make sure that we're a resource to say, hey, let us help you out through this process, because we know firsthand that it can be a difficult one. And we just want to put resources in people's hands to help them understand what grief looks like.
Sure. Well, we appreciate that. And I did take notice that on your website, you guys have care packages, kind of, which I appreciate. Most time when you're grieving and things, the kind of thing is you reach out to a flower shop or something like that. You send it over, and just like with anything else, it has its longevity or short longevity or lifespan rather. And, then that's it. But your care packages are a little bit different.
Yes, we have 2 different versions of it, but basically the first thing we want to put in their hands is a book that tells you about grief and the 7 steps of grief, so that you can think, okay, is it okay for me to be angry? Is it okay for me to be, depressed? And if I'm in denial, is that an okay thing? We just want people to know that, okay, this is how grief looks, and it's okay, so that they can read it and have that reassurance of knowing, okay, I'm not the only one that feels this way. And then we also encourage them to journal their process. I started this after I lost my brother to suicide. The book that I received which is one that we send out in those care packages, by an author named Bob Dietz. It's called Life After Loss. And I still have that book. My brother has been gone now for 9 years, but I still have that book in my hand. And I read that, 8 years. I still read that initial book that I have. It's beaten, it's torn up, but it's still relevant and it still helps me even as I go through, through the years. And I wanted to be able to give that to others as well, to say, here's something to help you understand. It also covers things to do on anniversary dates and how do you handle the holidays, because that's something that, a lot of people try to struggle with and go, okay, do we celebrate? How do we even get through Thanksgiving or Christmas when we don't have our loved one here anymore? So that's what our care packages are designed to address that issue.
Well, I think a lot of people would appreciate that, and especially with this time of year coming up with the holidays. This is a very depressing, sad time of year for a lot of people, since they've either lost their loved ones or people start moving down the wrong paths themselves. Let me ask you this. So what resources are you bringing forward to individuals to help them out through grief?
To help them through grief, we have the book is one that we send out. And then because suicide is so unique, if somebody has a suicide loss, we have another pamphlet that speaks strictly to suicide to help them through that type of grief. Another thing we like to do and provide to many families is we have custom jewelry it's basically to have that memory of your person. We do a lot of dog tags, so they'll say gone but not forgotten.
Okay.
And we customize them with maybe the person's name or just a saying on there to kind of make you feel more connected to your loved one.
Okay. And is there a hotline you guys run, or do you direct anybody to reach out if they need assistance on an emergent basis, or do you guys more or less allow people to reach out to you and then you respond at leisure?
We put on the website that, hey, if you're having a crisis, we encourage everyone to call the National Crisis Hotline, the
Very good.
1-800-273-8255, because we're not crisis intervention per se, and we want to make sure that they reach out to those folks that are on the line 24/7 waiting for someone to call.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. This way you guys are not getting bombarded if needed. But I'm
Right.
sure if somebody did call you guys, you would be able to redirect them properly. So,
Yeah, I have lots of different folks that reach out to me, and they're not necessarily in my lane, but I try to make it my point to know resources that are available, and that's basically what I do. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I'm looking for resources.
So I'll kind of ask a question on this one. It's two-part. You can answer it either direction, but red flags for individuals that have family members they feel may be on the verge of taking their own life, and red flags for individuals through grief that haven't realized they're in grief yet.
Yeah, so red flags for the individual that may be thinking. One of the classes that we teach with One Common Bond is a class called the 4R method for suicide intervention. And the first of those R's is red flags. So if you see somebody that's maybe a key thing is that if they have interest in certain thing and all of a sudden they lose that interest, they lose that connection or they begin to isolate themselves. Those are very strong red flags. And in the day and age that we live today, we need to make sure that we're being very, that we're really concentrating on social media. What I do with my full-time job, I'm a suicide prevention manager for the Army. And part of the job I have is I have to review suicide deaths after the person has died. The very first thing I do when I get a name of a soldier that's passed away by suicide is I look them up on Facebook or Twitter and just try to see what were their most recent posts, what were things that they put out there, and see if there's something that we can gain from that. And very often we will find that there's comments. It may be something subtle as a change of a picture. Normally their pictures are happy and smiley, and all of a sudden you see something that seems very dark and just desperate. But social media is a very key factor, and I try to make sure that people are aware of that so that they can reach out if they see social media and not just go, oh, I wonder what that's about, but to go a step further and call them and say, hey, I noticed your post. How you feeling today? Do you want to talk about anything? I'm here for you.
Hey, Miss Kimberly. Sorry about that. We dropped the connection there, but we'll jump right back into where we were if you don't mind. I'm sorry. You were speaking about photos and looking at people's responses and subtle changes that people can take notice to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just we try to encourage people to don't just look at a picture and question it, but actually call the person and question them. Ask them, show them that you care about them and you're worried about a post that you saw. Um, and the worst, I guess you could call them up and they could say, "Oh no, I'm fine. That's just maybe those were lyrics to a song that I posted or something," and they'll let you know. But if they're actually having thoughts of suicide, then that will also open the door to let them know that someone is really paying attention to me and somebody cares about me.
Okay. Well, I think that's great advice for people looking out for others, and social media is definitely a huge part of this world. So it's not going anywhere, but it is a good insight sometimes to individuals' minds as long as they're putting out there what's real, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
Um, and then what about anybody in grief? How can they recognize they're grieving? And I know that's kind of sounds off center, but sometimes we don't really realize our own emotions in the day-to-day life.
Yeah. Well, as you go through the stages of grief, it's okay to we naturally go through that depression. But that's probably the biggest stage that when you're in it, you can get to a point where you cross the line between healthy and unhealthy. So if people are no longer able to do the basic things, taking care of themselves, you go a couple of days or without really feel like even getting up and moving, then that's a point where your grief is at a level where you need to actually seek help. And there's lots of different resources to do that. Some that are anonymous, and others that you may need to actually go to a clinic or healthcare center. But I like to make sure that people know what those different resources are.
Very good. I mean, we appreciate it greatly. I think you guys are bringing a lot forward to the table. I want to make sure everybody can get a hold of you, can find you, and are able to understand what you guys do a little bit more. And if they ever need your assistance, let us know. How do they get a hold of you, your website, and where can they start on their own, even while they're waiting for pamphlets or packages, or what can they do as well?
Yeah, so on our website, it's www.1commonbond.org. So www.onecommonbond.org. We have a section on there that you can download different materials to help you understand grief. We also have the care packages that you were talking about, the two different versions of the care packages that are available on the website. And another thing I didn't mention is that when we have a family that we send a care package out to, we don't just send it to them one time and then that's it. Actually this week, starting November, we send out greeting cards to the families, basically specifically to those who have had loss and they're about to go through the holidays without a loved one, because we want to stay in contact with that family for at least a year after the date of their loss.
Okay.
So we try to do that for them too, because it means a world of a difference to just get a greeting card in the mail and expected to say, "Hey, we're thinking about you today."
Yeah.
And we want to be that support for people for years to come.
Yeah, that's very admirable. And I would just take note as well. I looked into, you guys are also, you kind of run just based off of donations as well. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we do have fundraisers. We have one that's going on right now for jewelry. So people that are in mind to buy some Christmas gifts. It's through our Facebook page, which is One Common Bond NC, the spelled out ONE Common Bond NC for North Carolina. But we get our all of our information. I mean, all of our resources through donations. We try to send those care packages out to every military Gold Star family. So if somebody has a soldier that dies in combat or gets in a training accident, we want to send those packages out to them free of charge without them having to reach out to us first. So that's a big part of what we do is we're looking on the news, we're seeing things that happen, and we really want to support our veterans and our military to ensure that those families are taken care of. But we also offer those same packages for people who want to go and purchase one and send it to maybe a friend or a neighbor.
And because I personally looked at it through Head to Head as well for the donation feature, because I think it's very positive to help organizations like yourself keep going and keep moving on without the financial burdens or stressing of, day-to-day operations. If someone, that just generally wants to donate to you guys and send a care package, maybe they're not personally affected, but they want to send a care package, are they able to do that as well?
Absolutely. We have a section on there that says donate a package. And what we like to do, I think is different than what a lot of organizations do, is if, say, you do a donation for the $50, the largest treasure box, we call it, and you say you want to donate that to a Gold Star family, or you want to donate it to a first responder family, you can tell us where you want that package to go. And once we identify the family to receive that package, we'll send that to them. And then we send the person that's the donor, we send them an email that says, hey, today your package was sent to a military family that lost their son in combat in Afghanistan. So you can kind of see where your money goes. And we are also a 501c3. So donations to our page you receive your tax deductible receipt as well. So we've had some businesses that have sent us pretty large donations, and that's been a blessing because it allowed us to send packages to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Every one of the families that had a loss there received that care package, and that was through a local business donor that said, hey, I want to make sure that we're taking care of all of those families. So we can't do it without support of others who are, just reaching out and giving.
Well, that's fantastic. We appreciate that. Now, are you local based, meaning you just kind of tailor to your local area, or is it national?
It has been national. We're based in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area.
Sure.
But as long as we have a post office, we can get those packages in the mail and send them out. And we have a couple of packages that are getting ready to go to other states. So even as far as Hawaii, we've had a couple of soldiers that have had losses there, and they've requested a package. So we've sent them out to our soldiers in Hawaii. So as long as we can get a post office location, we will send the packages anywhere they're needed.
Okay.
And we do have some of the materials in Spanish as well, because that was a new need that was requested after the hurricanes down in Puerto Rico. We had families that said, hey, I want something, but my family can't speak English. So we send packages in Spanish as well.
Well, that's fantastic as well, because we obviously there's a big community nationally that have that language as their primary language, and still should be able to communicate with their families and stuff and their loved ones, with this, this organization, and being able to, try to help out where they can. And given that on that as well, what would be maybe some advice that you would have for some friends of people that have been affected by suicide, that might not know how to show their sympathy or grief? That's just not a conversation would be comfortable with if it didn't directly affect them. But obviously being friends with that individual, I'm talking on a personal level. Unfortunately, I know two close friends of mine that have been affected by suicide, and it's a very hard conversation to have, or even be able to show some sort of empathy, because you don't want to bring it up. You don't know when the appropriate time is to bring it up, and obviously with the holidays coming up, but then you don't want to be standoffish either. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a balance. And what would be your common practice or
You there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so to answer your question about what do you do and what do you say to a family that's had a loss to suicide, I always tell people that your answer can never be to say nothing. That's actually how One Common Bond became the creativity of it, because after I lost my brother to suicide, my mother went 4 months without anyone speaking to her about my brother. And to me, that was just unacceptable. And I said, hey, it's a difficult conversation, but we have to do it, and we need to help people with that process. So on the webpage, we also have different things, what to say and what not to say. But the biggest thing I can say just right up front without even going to the webpage is it's okay. Just let them know that you're thinking of them. So those little cards that just say thinking of you, that says enough right there if you're really not sure what to say. Or just tell them, hey, I don't know what to say.
Right.
That's okay too. Just say, hey, I'm not really sure what to even say right now, but I just want you to know I'm thinking about you.
Right. Well, that's fair enough. It's like I said, it's very, very difficult to have that conversation, especially with the holidays coming up, Veterans Day coming up, and things of that nature. So I definitely appreciate that as a resource personally, so I can go into your webpage and kind of get some of those how to start the conversation, or at least acknowledge what that individual might be going through on that particular day.
Okay, and I do want to, I don't have it on the webpage yet. I have it on my computer, so I'll make sure I upload this document, but it has different resources because I'm here for grief support, but I also want to jump in on the front end of that and make sure that we help prevent suicide. So I have resources for people to reach out and get support. A main one I want to talk about for our veterans is vetsforwarriors.com. I'm not sure if you're already familiar with that one, but it's vets, the number 4 warriors.com. And that is, the director of that is a Major General, now retired, Mark Graham from the Army. He lost one of his sons to combat in an IED explosion, and he lost his other son to suicide. And he is director of this organization. They are a peer-to-peer support group. So if you call that phone line and you say, hey, I'm a Marine and I want to talk to a Marine, because they're the only people that are going to understand me, there's a Marine on that phone. If you're military Army and you say, hey, I want to talk to an Army person, they have all of the branches of services represented on their phone calls as peers. They're not clinicians, but they are there 24 hours a day. And if you just say, hey, I need a battle buddy to talk to at 3 o'clock in the morning, you call that number, which is 855-838-8255. That's 855-838-8255. And that'll connect you to a peer support through the Vets for Warriors program.
That's great. That's great for people to go to. Fantastic.
Absolutely. And I have several others as well. And I'm going to make sure that those are on my website, and I can share that with you as well through your page. But I like to make sure people have the resources, because I'm glad I'm here, and I know my mission is grief support, but if I can help on the other end and prevent it, then that's where I want to be.
Perfect. I mean, we appreciate what you're doing. There's, it's hard to even show appreciation completely because it's so deep. I know personally on my level, I can relate to a lot of things, and I do believe that going forward, we really need to just break the barriers of being able to talk to other people. That's one thing that we're trying to do here, is bring it forward so that it can become a conversation, and make everybody aware of actually the resources that are available. A lot of times individuals, military members, troops do not know what's actually available for them to take advantage of and help themselves. Yeah.
And hopefully that resource sheet page will help you out, because there's lots of them on there. There's ways to get anonymous help where the military doesn't know if you're still in the Army, or where even if you're retired or a veteran, then you can still get counseling and help free of charge, because there's so many services out there that most people just don't even know is there.
Correct. Yep. Well, we greatly appreciate your time today. We're definitely going to stay in touch with you and continue to move this conversation forward, and direct anybody that comes our way. We'll direct them your way, and make sure that they know are out there, and that the crisis line again is 1-800-273-8255. That's the Veteran Crisis Line. If anybody's having issues,
it's also for civilians. So it's not, that crisis line is not, people think it's just for veterans, but it's for anybody. Anybody anywhere can call that number. It's not just for veterans. They have veterans. You'll select number 1, and it'll put you in contact with military resources. But if you're not a veteran, then you just don't push a number, and it'll connect you to local resources in your community.
And that's available 24/7, 365, correct?
Correct.
Great. Fantastic. Well, Ms. Franco, we greatly appreciate your time today. You gave us a lot of valuable information. I think a lot of people are going to appreciate it. And, hopefully we'll be able to help some people out there just by this conversation going out over the airwaves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you very much for your time and your patience, and hopefully we will be able to connect a little bit more streamlined the next go around.
Sounds good.
You take care of yourself, and good journey.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.